This is the Servers Radio Network. Welcome to A Server's Journey with Rocky DeStefano. The foundation of the program is everyone's leading something or someone. Thus, we're on a journey, a server's journey.
Thanks, Larry, for introducing me, and we want to give a shout out to Foster and Mike, who are sheltering in place, and we miss them. I don't think...
I saw a picture on Facebook with Foster. He had such a smile on his face.
Yeah, he was next to a very pretty young girl, and I think he's sheltering in place with her, probably, and that's why he won't come out to do our show.
Oh, well,
but we do miss both of our cohorts here.
well, we want to thank everyone for all of their support of going online, leaving comments. We appreciate that. If you have questions for Rocky, you can certainly give it to him, and he will give you an answer.
Yeah, we actually had somebody reach out to us, and
We want to check out the Facebook group, the new Facebook group.
so this is a gentleman that I really respect a lot, to be honest with you. And he just reached out and told me he was listening to the show, had come across it by accident, and he said he's learning more and more. And he is a kind of my boss in a way, you know.
Wow.
Well, he's the director over part of our area in Orlando, but it's Victor Sanchez. And I really want to thank him for his kind words. And I shared that with him that, you know, it's embarrassing sometimes when you hear that anybody's listening to your show, because I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody going through life and trying my best to be a servant leader. So it's really nice to know that we're at least speaking to some people.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Victor, for the
thank you.
comment.
Yes.
We appreciate it. Today, we're going to be talking to part 2 of something we started last week, which is called Leading Your People in Times of Crisis, from an article that you picked up by Jim Hurdan.
I think you're right. Actually,
Haudan. We thank you very
Yes.
much, Jim, for that article.
Yeah.
We're kind of talking about it.
well, and it's really odd too because he didn't write it as an article on servant leadership, but everything that he espouses in the article is servant leadership. If you do these things when you're not in a crisis, you're going to really win your people over, and they're going to really follow you because they love you. But my gosh, in a time of crisis, it's even more important.
Well, speaking about leaders, we want to thank Eddie at ACS Creative.
It's Ed, please.
I'm sorry.
He's mature now.
I
Come on.
have his picture right in front of me, so I'm sorry, Ed. You're
That
there
attractive devil.
at ACS Creative. They help us with our website, and they partnered with us, and we appreciate that. They do brochures, they do logos, direct mail, ad campaigns, and websites. So they don't play games with your money. So contact ACS Creative on the internet at ACS Creative. It's time now for Epic Moments in Leadership. You know, I have a quote here, Rocky, that came to me, and it said, if you can lead one, you can leave many.
All right.
If you can lead one. If you can't lead one, you can't leave any.
Right. I like that.
Did you want me to repeat that so I wouldn't stumble over it?
Yes.
If you can lead one, you can lead many.
Yes.
If you can't lead one, you can't lead any.
Well, and many times the person that you're leading first is yourself. I mean, can you actually get, your stuff together?
Right.
It starts with self-discipline first.
That's right. All right. Well, let's get down to, I want to thank Sherry for giving me that quote.
Oh, really? Sherry, thank you very much, Sherry. Sherry's, I think, a friend of the program. Is she a friend of the program?
I'm sure she is.
All right, let's just claim that she is.
Yes. Okay. We're going to talk about part 2 of leading your people in times of crisis.
Right, and again, this was an article by Jim Haudan. We do want to really thank him a lot for the thoughts.
Well, if you missed us last week, we talked about don't ignore the anxiety of people.
Yes,
And then, yes?
no, go ahead.
And then actively define what is reality when you're in this crisis, and create a new starting line with people, and use the urgency as an alignment agent. And then, so today we're going to pick up on a great new topic: establish a new check-in routine. and I'm sure you've had to do this.
Yeah. So it's so easy, and I've kind of actually really felt this way as they're in a crisis, I'm in a crisis too. Like I'm feeling this crisis too, even same way they are. And I'm not saying that I'm feeling it more than them, but I'm feeling it differently than them. And the way that I'm feeling it differently is, who are they looking to for answers? Me. And I don't know any more than they do. I don't know what COVID is. I don't know if a peaceful protest in front of our store might get out of control. I don't know these answers. And so that's the tension and the stress that I'm feeling. They're feeling anxious about losing their job, and I'm feeling anxious about maybe having to lay off 240 people.
Wow, yeah.
And so it's easy for me to forget about them, forget about what they're feeling, and focus on the immediate. Hey, how the heck are we going to stay open? What are we doing? But even though that's like my thought, even though that's kind of like what my mind is telling me to do, I have to make sure that I establish new check-in routines. I have to make sure that I'm staying in touch with my people even more than ever, because they're feeling this tension. And I'll give you a couple examples. I had kind of worked out in my mind after the first couple weeks, hey, we're not going to open our dining room for a long time. In my mind, I had worked on this issue. I had communicated it to a few people that, hey, I don't see us opening up for probably several months.
That always amazed me. I thought, how can you think that far ahead?
Well, and again, you're kind of taking the data you have and trying to do your best. But I was up front, and I was just kind of talking to some of the team members, just, the everyday rank and file. Some of them were leadership, but some were just regular team member. And I kind of off the cuff said, oh, well, we're not going to open for like months in our dining room. And there was this one young lady named Sydney, and I physically saw her go and like just immediately feel secure. And I could have told them that like a week before, but I didn't even stop to think, hey, they're feeling this crisis too. They need me to check in with them. They need me to overshare. The moment I said, hey, I care about you, I'm protecting you, we're not opening dining room, it was like something on her, shoulder just dropped. It was amazing. So I was quick then to recover and actually send out to the entire team, hey, here's our plan, here's what we see. And up to this day, I've maintained that, where even if something small changes, I let them know.
I always like that.
Yeah.
Just a little nugget.
Yeah.
Will take me a long way. Now, maybe I'm the optimist type guy. But
no, I think it's really important that people know that, right?
Right.
And let me give you another example on this one too, because, the brief interactions can be opportunities to share updates with your team, of course, but it can also just more than anything let them know, hey, I'm here and I care, and it can provide opportunities for more meaningful conversations later. So right now, America is gripped with a lot of racial unrest. The killing of George Floyd, which I think everybody, I haven't heard a single person that I know say, oh, it was just, like, everybody is unified in the fact that this man didn't deserve to die. And everybody's unified around the fact that, hey, these people that didn't need to be tried and convicted according to our laws. But it's a scary time for a lot of people. Again, it's creating even more anxiety and more concern. I had a conversation with Delano, who's one of my top leaders, who is African American.
Didn't we have him on the show? No.
No, I don't think we had Delano on the show yet. But,
okay.
But we may very soon.
Okay.
And so I sat down with him and I just said, hey, I think it's important for you to know how I feel and where I stand. And I think it's important that you understand that I'm okay with you feeling however you feel. And so we ended up having a 40-minute conversation. It was really, really great. We talked about everything from redistribution of tax dollars to different school districts and hospitals. We talked about police brutality. We talked about all these things, and underneath it, I was able to realize there's power in that, because Delano needed to know, hey, I'm here and I care. Even if we don't agree on every point, I care about you. And so again, all that to say, you really need to make sure that in the middle of a crisis, you as a leader are establishing check-in routines so you don't just forget to do it. Make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Next point, Larry, that he talked about, celebrating all victories, large and small.
Yeah, you just don't want to overhype the small gains.
Right. Well, and the thing is, you want to recognize things even more so during the time of crisis, but you also don't want to kind of minimize. Small gains are great, but you want to keep the focus toward the bigger gains too. So, for us, we closed our dining room and we immediately lost 30-something% of our business. And
Wow.
even more so because drive-through was slower, mobiles were slower, people were inside. For the first 2 weeks, it was a ghost town, very, very slow. And so...
but that drive-through business picked up, didn't it?
right, and that's what we kind of had to do. We kind of had to set new goals, right? And then we had to begin to celebrate as we got quicker in drive-through, as we started to gain some of the lost sales from dining room back, as we started seeing our mobile orders pick up, et cetera.
The amazing thing is I walked into your store one day, and I thought it was busier than when I've seen it before. There was more action happening. It was incredible.
Yeah, redistribution of action, but yes, for sure. And again, all of this, the reason why you really want to focus on this, and to use a baseball term, right? You can hit a home run, that's great, but it's normally you're going to score by hitting singles and doubles and bunting the person over to third, or sacrifice flying somebody home. Same thing in business. By doing this, by celebrating these victories, the large and the small, again, it's going to allow you to emerge even stronger and even a better business once this is back to normal.
So what are some of the possibilities that you look for? What do you scout out?
So I don't think you can, because we've talked about this. Like there are things, like for me, I am researching a health insurance plan for next year, and it just takes a ton of time. I am sitting back and wondering, do I take the payroll protection plan, the loan from the federal government? I'm trying to figure out, all these things. And so the reality is I don't have the time to scout all possibilities, nor do I have the expertise anymore. So what you kind of have to do is use your people and encourage them to become opportunity scouts. And so that really means tapping into what your people know already about the current challenges and getting them involved in imagining a response and recovery plan that creates value for your business. So for instance, small changes. So, okay, instead of having 2 runners to run mobile curbside orders, now we need 3 or 4 or 5.
And you've been doing that.
Yeah. And again, it was really, some of the things were like, hey, let me state the obvious, but most things came from the team. And they began to move tables up to the front of our counter and create staging areas so that it kind of passed a process so we didn't miss orders. So you would have a person who would be getting drinks and a separate person who were getting the condiments. And then the person who bagged the food would put that bag with the condiments, with the drinks, and it would kind of go out. And it was just like a factory line almost. It was pretty amazing to watch it form. And they did the same thing in drive-through. Hey, we're taking this many orders with 2 people. How many can we take with 4?
Wow.
So again, you want to kind of scout the possibilities, but really for a leader in a company of any real size, you're really asking your people to become those scouts.
Wow. Well, one of the important things is communication.
Right.
and letting people know what's happening.
Right.
So you do that, don't you?
Well, and we talked about this a long time ago in one of our episodes where we talked about Super Bowl. No, it was the national championship, and it was
Right.
the Alabama versus Clemson.
Yeah,
Or
that
Georgia. It was Georgia. Yeah, Alabama versus Georgia, and the guts. But we talked about how none of it would have mattered if we didn't know the score.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we're really talking about here. It's really funny. Again, people in a time of a crisis are looking to have their anxieties somewhat smoothed over.
Yeah.
They're looking for natural things to take away their minds from going to, hard or troubled places. So more than ever, people are interested in knowing what's the score? How are we doing? Like they're begging to know how we're doing. So another example from our store, we had talked about how we began to change things. And so what we started understanding is, hey, we're changing things. So now we have to institute a new set of targets to make the score meaningful. So prior to COVID, a mobile hour, we would celebrate a mobile hour with 50 transactions from 12 to 1. We were probably averaging 90 to 100 cars in our drive-through. But as we started adding more focus, more people, as we started creating scouts, looking for opportunities, we suddenly started breaking our records. And so we began to have to up the records. So what maybe it was 50 mobile curbside orders, now our record is 139. Oh. And so if we have a 50-day, it's not a good, we're like, oh man, that was kind of slow today. And drive-through, we've gone from, okay, can we break 100 from 12 to 1? Well, then we did that. And then we said, okay, can we break 120? And can we break 100 from 11 to 12 or 1 to 2? And so we've this week hit 100 car hours for 4 or 3 straight hours from 11 to 2.
Wow.
And we've seen our mobile also pick up too. So it's, you've got to constantly, look at communicating the score, what the score is now compared to what it was before. And then, of course, reward them and celebrate it.
So we're going to look at the highlights, the
Yes.
things that are really exciting.
And changing the highlights, not the highlights, but changing the scores to what matters now.
Right. And what amazes me is somehow the Lord had you prepared for this, because drive-through was there, but this drive in to pick up your order, your phone in, what do you call that?
Mobile curbside.
Mobile curbside. It's phenomenal. It wasn't there 5 years ago.
No,
it
didn't.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I think we started about 2.5 actually, but we were ahead of the chain, and it does seem like Providence that we got a head start, and so we were a lot less tied to our dining room than some. And I've seen this, Starbucks, for instance, they just announced yesterday they're closing 400 stores.
Oh, wow.
Including 17% of their total stores in Canada.
Wow.
And they're doing it because the models changed and they hadn't changed quick enough.
Wow.
Now, they'll recover. Starbucks is a huge company, and I don't think anybody's worried about their recovery.
Yeah, just because there's 4 Starbucks on one block doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay. But it did highlight to me that, and this wasn't me, but some of the people within our chain were thinking way ahead and thinking about, hey, wow, what if, or hey, what is this phone? What is this phone? What can it be? And it can be another order point. It can be, yeah, for sure it was, it definitely helped that we were ahead of the game here. And then, Larry, the last thing would be, and you started mentioning it, I cut you off, was highlighting the ray of light.
Yeah.
So you have to begin to say, okay, and it sounds a little bit like we're talking scorecard here too, but you're not. What you're doing with this is, hey, we're starting to gain back our sales. So our first 2 weeks, we lost 130,000 in one store.
Whoa.
And 100,000 in the other store. And I had to communicate that because I had to communicate, hey, we've got to really watch labor. We do have to cut back some. Hey, this is our reality right now.
But you were open.
We were open. And so that, the rally cry became, hey, we're open today. Guys, we are open today and you're getting paid. Let's celebrate and let's look at that ray of light. Then it became, hey guys, we're starting to gain in our drive-through. Our numbers are kind of getting back up. And then it became, hey, we're no longer down. We're breaking even again for the day. And then it became, hey, not only are we breaking even, but we're actually now starting to thrive. But again, it's always you're highlighting, hey, this is what's happening. This is the positive about what's happening in the middle of this crisis.
And it's always good to communicate that.
Yes. Yes. I love that this gentleman, Jim, writes into his article, and this may be one of my favorite quotes of all time. He quotes the great philosopher Winnie the Pooh. Mm-hmm. And the quote is, "Promise me you'll always remember you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think," which my daughters loved Winnie the Pooh growing up. In fact, one of my daughters, that was her theme in her room, was classic Winnie the Pooh. So Winnie the Pooh, thank you. And thank you, Jim, for writing a great article on crisis.
Well, thank you for being with us here on A Server's Journey again this week. We appreciate you. We appreciate hearing from you each and every week. And go to ACS Creative, because they don't play games with your money if you need help with a website. So, Rocky, until next week, I am your ever-faithful companion, Larry.
Thank you very much for being my companion, Larry. And I want to thank everybody who listens, takes their time out of their day. Remember, please review us and rate us. We need your help. And I feel like I'm begging, and I kind of am. But if you could just take, right now you're listening, so I know you got some free time. Take 2 seconds and just do a rating or a review of us, please.
Well, thank you very much.
Let me remind you all that we are on a journey and we are on it together. And we really, Larry and I, believe that it's how you serve while you're in that realm. That's why every week we come to you and we share a server's journey. I'm Rocky DeStefano. Thanks for joining us. And we're going to ask you each week, are you somebody worth following?